That's what it was fun. Anyways, so hey, I wanted to change it up a little bit, guys. I wanted to take us away from just real estate training and loan products and teaching you guys what we have at Loan Depot. And I wanted to give you guys something for yourselves, just a little bit of self-help. So Tony came along and offered a little bit of coaching from his book that he's writing, and it's about changing your mindset. So I'm going to let Tony jump in and take it away because we're short on time, and hopefully you guys enjoy this and you get a lot out of it. All right, Tony.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Trent, for having me. I really appreciate it. How's everybody doing for Memorial Day weekend? You guys recovered yet? Yeah? It's crazy. Like, I remember, 3, 4, 5, 10 maybe years ago, and Memorial Day weekend was, the following week you didn't start even getting into the swing of things because you were on the hangover plan for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and going to do a 2-day week. But in my old age, there's no drinking. I'm not doing it anymore. So I guess I've reached the boring phase of my life. But anyways, anyone who does not know me, my name is Tony Velasco. Who here knows who knows of Afterburn Fitness out here? Got a handful of you guys. Awesome. That's a gym that I own. This is my lovely wife, Allison.
Hello.
We're going to go into a semi-hilarious story for you guys here in a little bit to kick it off. It's always fun. But in addition to owning Afterburn, and I am currently, as Trent said, I'm writing a book right now called The Legacy Mindset, which is going to be a lot of what I'm going to talk to you guys about. I'm also starting a digital agency firm, consulting firm, and then I also am in the process of starting another company called Ride BPM. So Allison makes fun of me all the time because I have 27 different things that are on my plate any given day. But that's kind of, it's the whole process. The journey of it all is what motivates me, drives me, inspires me, and so I'd like to share a little bit of that with you guys today. Quick note, by all means, you are not going to offend me. Please continue eating, stuff your faces, it's good. Don't stop doing that. The legacy mindset. So the book that I'm writing, it really has 3 main parts, and obviously we're not going to go into all of the details today, but essentially it's about learning to reverse engineer the way you think and act and make decisions. So we're going to go over a lot about that today. It's about changing your environment and who you surround yourself with. I'm sure you guys all know that when you're surrounded by people that push you, that motivate you, that inspire you, you're much more likely to succeed than if you're surrounding yourself with a bunch of losers. So it's about the top 10 inter and intra-personal traits that the most successful people have, and so how to obtain those. And then it's about the systems that you use to actually execute all of those things. The 2 big topics we're going to touch on today is the idea of procrastination, and then also I want to talk about, again, how to reverse engineer the way you think so the decisions you make are for delayed gratification and not for immediate gratification, which so many of us kind of fall into. But before we get into that, and we get into legacy, and we get into mindset, and we get into all that other stuff, again, I wanted to tell a fun little story to kick it off, because it touches on another aspect that I feel immensely passionate about, and that is the idea of regret. It is literally, regret is what drives me every single day. It's the idea that I could wake up 30 years from now and wonder, what if? And so the idea, like, I would rather fail at something 1,000 times than wake up at 75 and wonder, what if I had attempted to do this? What would have happened? It was a mindset that I took when I opened up Afterburn 7-8 years ago, when I was putting everything on the line and everything that I had saved up to that point, and I was risking anything and everything that I had made up to that point for this one venture, and it was weird. Like, I was scared for the longest time. I mean, I'm sure you guys can understand, if you were to put every dime that you would ever save into one thing. Like it's scary. And for months and months and months, I was super scared and nervous about how I was going to go about it, or if I was going to go about it rather. And then it was weird, it was like one day, and I don't even remember what necessarily it was, or I didn't realize what it was until later, that everything became clear. And it wasn't like this sense of absolute, I'm going to do it and I'm not going to fail and it's going to be amazing. It was more of this sense of like realizing that the pain of potential regret down the road far outweighed the potential failure that was at stake. And once I made that switch, like everything changed. So on to the funny story. So I met Allison. Literally, we went to college at University of Arizona. I met her the last semester of our college tenure. I was thinking, all right, I only need a few more units to graduate. Why not take a women's studies class, right? There's gonna be lots of girls in there. I can figure my way, you know what I mean? Like, let's go out with a bang here. So Allison and like 3 of her girlfriends were in there. I ended up being the only guy in class, which was a good thing and a bad thing. I had no one to kind of, you know what I mean, hang out with or joke with. But class goes on. We would say hi, but outside of kind of in passing, we never really connected until towards the end of the semester. And we're at a bar called Dirtbags, appropriately enough.
It's classy.
And classy. And she, like, I'd seen her at the bar. I said, oh, hey, how's it going, Allison? And we just kind of saw in passing. Again, we had talked very briefly, but nothing in length. Anyways, towards the end of the night, liquid courage obviously starts to kick in a little bit. You get a little bit of assistance. And so I'm with my buddy, and it's been a joke. She's heard the story probably 47,000 times. And I was hanging out with my buddy by the bar. I saw Allison on the other end of the bar, and she was talking to this guy. And I looked at him, and I said, watch this. And so I walked across the bar, and I literally, like, she's talking side by side to this guy, and I literally just merged my way right in between them and started chatting up Allison. Still to this day, I don't even know who that guy was. Do you even know who it is? Do you remember?
I don't remember who it was. No.
Long story short, whatever it was,
I don't
it
remember.
worked, right? We chatted up. The guy ended up walking away. I talked to her that night, and here we are. Shoot, what?
15?
15,
Almost?
almost.
Yeah.
Right?
He looked
Yeah,
at me
exactly.
like, how many years?
Should have wrote that one down. Here we are 15 years later. So it all worked out. My point is this with that story, as I go into a lot of this mindset regret talk, is I don't think we look at this stuff in a bigger picture enough. Think of, like, and I'm sure you guys have encountered this kind of stuff in your life. What if I hadn't done that? What if I had not gone up to her that night? You could say, oh, maybe I could have done it on a later night, but maybe that other guy that was talking to her could have taken her to a date. Maybe that would have been her boyfriend, and then she would have said, no, I'm seeing somebody. Like, there could be a million different scenarios. The point is that our inactions, more so than our actions, will affect what happens in our life. And so I am here today to talk about a lot of different things, but it's one, to try to get you guys to wrap your mind around the idea that failure is and always will be a better outcome than the regret, the unknown, all of those failures, all of those losses. They're just lessons learned. And like you could say, well, she could have turned out to be a crazy person. She could have turned out to be a crazy one, right? But isn't that kind of worth the risk? Like, isn't that worth the risk to say, hey, look, she could have been the crazy one, and you approach the ones that you think might be the crazy ones just for the slight chance that they're the one. And so whether it's with the girl at the bar, how you act in your business, or anything else you do, like that mentality, taking that leap and just jumping, like, in my opinion, is what kind of will set you free. So let's talk about legacy and mindset. What does, and I want to make this as interactive, hopefully, as possible. So what does legacy, and anyone can just shout out, we're past 3rd grade, you don't got to raise your hand. What does legacy mean to you guys? Anybody?
What you pass on.
What you pass on?
Oh, yeah.
Does anybody think about it a lot? Like honestly, like truly, like what do I want, asking yourself this, what do I want my legacy to be? Because I don't think people look at it enough. And I think by not really searching deep inside on what you want to leave behind, I think we end up leaving less than we would have liked to when we're re-looking back at our lives at 72, 75, 85, whatever it is.
Oh, he's got it.
Do you have a pen?
He said it was right up there. Somewhere.
Oh, right here.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. So, speaking of legacy, what do you think? Let's talk about journey and destination for a second.
Journey of life.
Journey in life? Life, yeah. Journey is in life, and the destination is in whatever. And again, this can be related to your life as a whole, and everything else that kind of happens within it. But if I were to ask you what's more important, what would you say? The journey? Anyone for destination?
I say
The
both.
journey is always more important.
The both. The both.
I say
It's a,
both.
yeah, it's so important it has a "the" in front of it. Both.
I'd say both, yeah.
And my simple explanation and reasoning for why is that if you don't love the journey, you're going to quit. Like if you don't love the day-to-day process and what you're doing, you're not going to survive all the hurdles, all the punches in the mouth, and everything else that comes with it. At the same time, if you don't have a destination, you will wander aimlessly. You will have no purpose. And so it is absolutely, without a doubt, both.
That's a trick one.
Yep.
Yep.
My destination, my purpose is for a market that works. I apologize
It's a polar bear.
Sometimes you put it at an angle so it, you know.
in advance for my writing, spelling, all the above. So I talk about journey and destination, and I talk about the idea that you'll wander aimlessly. You have to have a defined purpose and defined goals to get there. And again, this exercise should be done not just with your life, but then again within your work, your kids, like everything as a whole, to find out, all right, what is it that I really want to accomplish?
A little darker.
Awesome, thank you. What will this do?
Right,
Erases
darker.
the handwrites.
Oh,
Well, that has the eraser.
I was
on
like,
it.
this is going to erase my writing.
Yeah, but
You can see how often I use these
that's
things.
more a little gray than it is black on the other marker.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, what do you want from your career? What's that legacy you want to leave with your kids? You know what I mean? And your generations. For you guys being agents, what does that look like? Is it to be the top broker? Is it in the state, in the city, in this office? And then what does that look like? Literally you're reverse engineering everything we do. And we do this at Afterburn when I talk to my sales guys about memberships and all that kind of stuff. It's not just because everything comes down to that bottom thing that matters, what we're actually in control of. So if we want to say, hey, look, we want to do 50 memberships this month, we have to figure out we have to first know our lead conversion, right? So we have to know, because that's really what matters. Like we can sit here and say, oh, we want 50 memberships, but unless we get at least, again, generally speaking, we do about 45, 50% conversion rate. So we've got to at least get 100 people through the door, right? Before we even start talking about 50 memberships. Okay, but then how do you get 100 people through the door? And so literally backing it in that way. So again, if your legacy is to achieve X, whether it's financial, whatever it is, like what's your number? Like literally start breaking it down to actual numbers. Okay, so what do you have to do to get there, right? Or if it's to be the top broker, and you have to sell X amount of homes in a 6-month period. Okay, well that's how many per month? That's what's your conversion rate on leads? Like literally breaking it down all the way to the simplest of steps. I'm sure you guys have heard of Grant Cardone, 10X, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, and I'm not sure if he actually, because I've read the book, but not in its entirety, and I don't even know if he talks about 10X as in like 10Xing your income necessarily. But I would argue that if he doesn't say this, and he might, that it's more about 10Xing whatever it is that you are in absolute control over.
Well, he says if your goal is 100, make it 1 million.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I would argue that you're not in control of 100 or 1 million. What you are in control of is how many phone calls you make, how many doors you knock on. Like that's the stuff that if you 10X, because you can say like, oh, 50 memberships, 500 memberships. Well, how are you going to get 1,000 people through the door? Like how many phone calls do we need to make? How many referrals do we need? How do we get 1,000 leads? That's what really matters. And that's what you're in absolute control over. You're in absolute control over the phone, like those actions. And so when you're breaking down and you're reverse engineering what it is your legacy is to be in your life, in your career, like breaking it down to what you have control over is what really matters. And so, I don't want to get into like this is your world. The real estate world isn't my world. So, and I don't mean to talk a ton about real estate, but I do want to brush over it a little bit. And so, you guys have probably heard this kind of stuff before, but if you want to do the things that you've never had, or if you want the things that you've never had, you have to do the things that you've never done. If you want to be in the top 1%, you have to do 1% of the things that the other 99% of people are not doing. And I would argue, as technology becomes more and more integrated in all industries, but especially in your guys' industries, it's getting harder and harder from a sales standpoint to separate yourself from the person next to you, right? Because we're in the middle of buying a home right now, ironically.
Who's your agent?
Who's your real
I like it.
Are you happy with this?
Yeah.
More importantly, who's your lender?
Yeah.
You walked into that.
I know I did.
Doing it.
But my point is that we can go online, whether it's Zillow or Realtor.com or anything, and without any agent whatsoever, look at all the houses, look at all the pictures, like do everything, right?
Yep.
So, what value, what 1% value are you bringing to the table that the other 99% of realtors aren't? This is random, and I'm jumping kind of back and forth here, but let me give you an example. We do this at Afterburn when it comes to lead generation. Like if someone comes in, right, for an appointment, first time appointment, we want to make sure that they don't flake on that appointment, right? Because flaking on an appointment, it happens. And I don't know if it's probably less likely in your guys' industry because, I mean, if someone's buying a house, but I could be wrong.
Oh, it happens.
Does it happen?
Yeah.
All the time.
So leading up to that, what we do is, again, we already have the contact information. Texting nowadays gets a better response than email, so texting, phone calls, that kind of stuff. But we'll make sure that we reach out. Like say there's an appointment for someone to come in at 5 p.m. Our guys will reach out at earlier in the day, like, hey, just confirming, hey, just FYI, I'm here waiting, or, you know what I mean, I'm excited about our appointment today. as it gets closer, so that there is less of a flaking opportunity, it might be a text that says something along the lines of, because we have a smoothie bar, hey, what's your favorite smoothie? Okay, awesome. Hey, we'll have that peanut butter smoothie ready for you when you get here. And literally what that is, it's a subtle way to guilt them into not canceling. I used to cancel all the time when I used to get my hair cut. I hate driving to get a haircut. Like it just, and mind you, before opening Afterburn, like I was a personal trainer. So I understood that I was, am I allowed to like curse here?
Yes.
Oh, all right. I'm with the right crowd then. Yeah. But I knew I was screwing that person over, like to some level, right? Like by canceling my appointment, my haircut appointment with them, they then were losing that money within that hour. And I'm a personal trainer, and I know that's a shitty thing to do. And so I would battle with myself, and I would, you know what I mean? I would even offer to pay for it and all that kind of stuff. But my point being is that even something as simple as laziness to not wanting to get my hair cut would still not prevent me from, or I would still cancel. So I was talking about this literally today on the way here, and there's the Apollo's Barbershop, which I know serves alcohol. Does anybody here go there?
They closed.
They closed?
But my husband was going there.
Okay, well this is maybe a bad example because they closed. But my point being is that, or any barbershop, or you know what I mean?
It was innovative.
Well, it was, and they serve beer.
There's a nail salon across the street that serves champagne. while
They
you
serve
get your nails
champagne.
done.
Okay, now.
That's why I was so excited when I saw where it was.
Here's what I would do if I was a barber. Is before that person were to come in and get their haircut with me, I would fire off a text before that 5 o'clock appointment. What's your favorite beer? I'll have it ready for you. The likelihood of that person canceling is not only is it, hey, it's fun, now there's a beer waiting for me, but like, if I was thinking about canceling, fuck, I can't cancel. Now the guy's got a beer waiting for me. I gotta suck it up and go.
Free beer.
And it's not only, it's a win-win, because not only is it gonna increase the show rate, but you just amped up the value and the customer service that you bring. So it's literally a win-win across the board. And so when I talk about, you know, being the top broker and how you set yourself apart nowadays with technology being, you know, so available to anybody and everybody, like it's that stuff that's going to separate you. I got another kind of random dumb example, but I went through a couple with insurance brokers for our company, and the first couple I had were, this is how I thought all insurance brokers were. I mean, it wasn't a bad service, but it wasn't, you know, exceptional. It was just my insurance guy. It was just there. And ironically, the reason why I ended up moving away from him was because he would small talk on the phone, and I was like, I got stuff to do. So that was ironically the reason why I left. And it was the same kind of stuff every time. But anyways, my point being, so then I went to another insurance company, and they did something so small in the grand scheme of things, but that put me at ease, and I was like, oh wow, like this is way cooler. So anyone who knows, who buys an insurance policy, you get a book that is like this thick, right? No one's reading through that. It's got words that I don't understand. I'm not messing with it. And what they did is they put together like this little tiny packet. It was like a one sheet front and back. It explained all only that matters. The coverage limits, the premiums, all that kind of stuff. And they put it in a nice little sheet that said like, you know, welcome to the it's Eichberg Insurance team, whatever. And it was just drawn up really nice, but it was simple. Literally, what do you think that cost them? Nothing. But to me, it was like, all right, they're simplifying and making my life easier. So, again, whether it's a beer, whether it's that kind of stuff, it's as technology gets more and more prominent.
It's killing us.
But your game to win is to go back to the old school ways.
Right.
Yeah.
It's to go back
Go
to
back to basics.
Personal
this.
connection.
Yeah.
It's this.
Yeah.
That's right.
Personal connection.
Like, and what you can do to implement that creates this, like, people want that.
Right.
Like, a lot of people don't even realize they want it.
Just no small
until-
talk.
It is. Yeah, just no small talk. But like, the way you win is by getting back to the basics. Because technology is going to level the playing field on all other things. So the one thing you have left is your people skills, your relationships. Like, you are in the relationship game. And we are too, in my industry. Like, we have, yeah, our facility might be nice, but at the end of the day, what is it really? It's 4 walls with some rubber on the floor and some weights on the side and a couple machines to run on. But what makes the difference is
Cleanliness. probably.
cleanliness. When they walk through that door, it is ingrained into our front desk from day one. You will learn and know everybody's name. And we're not a club that has, 100, 200, 400 members. We have 1,800 members. And they know every single person's name. And it's all of those other details. It's the personal aspect that attaches them to us, that makes them not want to go anywhere. Not the stupid weight. And so it should be the same thing for you guys. I want to go into mindset and success and all of that kind of stuff. So, mindset is, I think I'm getting the message across that it like literally means everything to me. Mindset and the strength of it is literally what changes the way you think, act, move, all of that, right? And positivity, right, is literally one of the most powerful elements to that you can inject into your life. And seeing things from like different perspectives, like having perspective on things. So let me give you an example. When I started, so when I was a personal trainer, before I opened up Afterburn, I was doing personal training in people's houses, renting space at other, like small gyms that rent for personal trainers. And I was starting to do a boot camp. And I figured, hey, you know what? I'm going to start a boot camp, but I don't have anybody that wants to do it. So, hey, I'm going to go on my computer, go on Microsoft Word, get some clip art, steal some fake logos from the internet somewhere, and put it together, print them out, and go mail them to people's mailboxes. And that's what I did. And I don't know how many I printed out, thousands and thousands, just literally out of my printer with clip art. And I walked door to door and illegally put them in people's mailboxes. You're not supposed to do that. And after days and days and days of doing this and putting them in thousands of homes, you know how many people did it?
5.
1.
That's all it takes.
And I could have, and I think most people in my situation would have said, it's not worth my time.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest problem that people make, is they value or they assess their value on an hour or right now or a day, when your true value is what you accomplish over your lifetime. And so instead of, from a positivity standpoint, instead of looking at that 1 as like a negative, I'm 1 out of 10,000. I looked at it as 1's better than 0. And that 1 became 5, that 5 became 20, that 20 became 100, and that 100 became a 25,000 square foot club out here and another club in South Bay, and on and on and on and on. That is the power of, and this is the importance of like the journey and regret and all of that kind of stuff, because, and your mindset has to be right to understand that like it's not always going to be easy. Like when we talk about 10x phone calls, right? 10x the thing you're in control of. Well, what happens when you 10x your phone calls and you get 0, are you going to then just quit? Oh, I tried it, it's not going to. 10,000 phone calls and I got nobody. Make another 10,000 phone calls. And sure enough that you get 1, and then you get 2, and you know, it goes on from there.
Did you base Afterburn after Velocity?
No, they're focused on youth training.
Yeah.
We're an adult, like we focus on adult membership. We compete with literally everybody. I mean, we compete with CrossFit, we compete with Orange Theories and those small studio gyms, but we also compete a lot with the big boxes, LA Fitness, Equinox, everybody. And the reason why is our premise is essentially that we're a hybrid facility in that we have the space, scope, amenities that you would find in all those big box clubs, but with the service, with the classes that you only find in smaller boutique gyms. So it's kind of encompassing both elements to it.
Cool. No, I know because when they closed, a lot of my friends went to you.
A while back, like
A couple years, maybe 3 years.
oh god, that was that with an Andrew Jacobson and
Maybe. Yes, and Tojo.
yeah, and Tojo and all those
I think
guys.
so.
Jojo was a good friend.
Yeah,
Oh,
see,
yeah.
there you go.
Did you get a lot of the Warriors people from?
We did.
Yeah.
We actually, we actually got a lot of them in the last 45, 60 days or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that was going down from a long time.
Right. Yeah.
It's a matter of time.
Exactly. Well, let me get into the next topic here about the idea of procrastination. Drop a bar here. Hopefully this is big enough. Yeah, let's drop this. All right. So, first off, has anybody heard of the marshmallow study? No? Cool, I'm excited to talk about it. So, and this marshmallow study is actually what a lot of my book is predicated on, or at least a good portion of it. And this is kind of ties into the idea of reverse engineering the way you think and act. And in the book, I've broken it down into that we make decisions really for 3 reasons. Those reasons being, and they're called task value, result value, and then what I've created is legacy value. So in other words, it's the task value decision. So in other words, it's, do I want to go to the gym, right? So this is how normally how your brain processes things. Well, do I like going to the gym? How many people are yes and how many people are no's? Most people are no's, right? So then when it's like, do I want to go to the gym? Task value, nope, I don't like doing it. No, I don't want to do it. Okay? So the result value is the second level of that, which is you may not like the task itself, but do you find value in the result that you get from doing it?
Yes.
Don't love working out, but I know it's good for me. Okay, I'll go. But then there's also that, okay, I know it's good for me. I'd rather not. So my point being is that even result value-based decisions still aren't enough. And so that's why in my book, I've created this legacy value decision. And we'll go into that in a second. But before we do, I want to go to this marshmallow thing because it ties in. So the marshmallow study is a study that was done, I might misquote this, but I think it was back in the 70s. And what they did is they got a bunch of 5 to 7-year-old kids. And individually, one at a time, they put them in a room and they put a marshmallow. They're sitting at a desk. And they put a marshmallow on a desk. And they say, hey, you can either eat the marshmallow, or if you can hang out and wait for 15 minutes, I'll give you a second marshmallow. And they walk out the room. And they see what happens. They see if the kid eats the marshmallow, or the kid waits to have the marshmallow. I don't know what the exact percentage is of which kids eat the marshmallow and don't, but it's funny because literally the cameras are on the kids, and some of them are like, You know what I mean? Like they're like salivating, you know what I mean? Like trying to fight their urges, they're running around. Bottom line is some of them eat it, and some of them have the discipline to wait. And so they come back in, and if they didn't eat the marshmallow, they get their second marshmallow, test is over. Here's the crazy thing. They followed these kids for 10, 20, 30 years. And almost to a T, the kids that did not eat the marshmallow, that waited for their second, had higher SAT scores, had better social skills, were more successful in the real world, had better paying jobs, etc. That their ability to be okay with delayed gratification
Right.
is what allowed them to become successful. And that's the stuff that we fight. Again, this is the workout argument I just made. Or I'm going to work on my business, or I'm going to binge watch Lost or The Bachelor or whatever one of a million different shows are on, right? Like the immediate gratification of buying a purse versus saving or investing, of eating the hamburger, you know what I mean, at McDonald's versus, you know what I mean, like I know I'll get better results by not having that. Like delaying that, all those immediate gratifications. Like it starts when you're 5. Here's the other crazy part. They then said, well, so is it an innate thing? And the answer is no. So what they then did was they said, okay, well, what if we didn't follow through with giving them the second marshmallow? So what they did is, and that's what it ended up all coming back to. There's a lack of trust. And so all these things are ingrained in you when you're, like literally from the time you're born. And here's a preach to any of you guys who are parents in here. This is why all of those little things matter. Because what they found was when they said, hey, look, I'll give you a second marshmallow if you don't eat this one. If they left and the kid had the discipline to not eat the marshmallow and they came back in, I think they did it with crayons actually. They had like, oh, hey, like here's a 8-pack of crayons. And then they got like a 64-pack of crayons or whatever it was. But the point being the same. And the thing is that if they did not get the reward that they were told that they were going to get by accomplishing the task, that then when they did it again the second time, they said, screw it, and they ate the marshmallow. Because I know I'm not going to get the second one. And so what that means is that this stuff isn't ingrained in us. It's not a biological predetermined thing. It's a trainable thing. Like we can all train ourselves, whether we're 5 years old, 55 years old, 75 years old, like whatever we are, like we still have the ability to train it. What we have to do is make sure that we also do these little things. Like if we're going to set these goals and we're going to reverse engineer all these things and we set these little milestones, that when and if we hit them, that we give ourselves these little rewards that then say, our brain subconsciously says that delayed gratification was worth it because there was a reward at the end of the tunnel per se. Yeah, exactly. So back to what I was talking about with the legacy mindset, and that's exactly what it does. It reverse engineers your decisions to say, all right, and the whole point of it is to not think of it like the normal route, which is I think of task value first, because if you think of task value first, you're not even going to get to the result value or the legacy value decision anyways. If the way you process decisions is, all right, do I want to go to the gym? No, I don't like working out. You're already going to say no. Like when you talk, you have to reframe your mind so that the first thing you think of, and this is where building out your legacy is important, maybe you don't like going to the gym, right? Maybe you've never worked out before. But maybe you have kids. And you understand the dynamic that your kids, they don't listen to what you say. They watch what you do.
Right.
And so if they see mom and dad going to the gym, then they will eventually take up those qualities. And so if part of your legacy that you build out is like, I want to raise my kids to be strong, independent, confident, healthy, individuals. And that's what you frame the question to yourself of, do you want to go to the gym? And that has to be the first question you go to. If you say no to that, then you got other problems. You know what I mean?
And if mom and dad go to the bar?
Yes. Depends on what you prioritize. You guys got one down here.
Thank God my kids.
Yeah. So, and this is still not going to be big enough to get the point across, but task value decisions are things that you enjoy in the moment, right? So, they literally have a payback of within 24 hours, right? The binge watching the TV show, grabbing that burger, not exercising or whatever it is, right? And so it's literally 0.003% of your life is what one day is. So it's a 24-hour ROI, basically. If you are able to do a result value-based decision, and you're able to consistently say, okay, hey, I may not like going to the gym, but I know it's good for me. That's a 6 to 12 month payoff where you start to see the results of working out, of not grabbing the burger, of working on your business instead of binge watching the TV show, whatever, right? So that's at about 0.5 to 1.2% of your life. Every other decision that you make, if you can do it from a legacy value, is everything from 1 year out for the rest of your life. So if you can learn to make decisions for this, that's a whole lot better of a payoff than making decisions for the 0.003% of your life or the 0.5 to 1.2% of your life. And I'm not saying that this isn't better than this, because it is. But what I'm saying is, building out what you're going to do and reverse engineering what you want your legacy to be, what you want for your kids, what you want for, again, to be the top broker and what that takes, and saying, look, I know I want, and this is the whole adage of, the people who are building their business that go party on the weekends versus they stay and work on their business plan or whatever it is. It's those types of decisions. That those are the ones that are making decisions in this realm that are going to pay off huge. Now, let's talk about procrastination, because there's one last thing to this that kind of wraps it all up. Because even if you are dedicated and focused and diligent about reverse engineering your decisions, right? Let's be real, it's still hard to still execute on that. And this is where the importance of deadlines comes in. So, I would argue that the biggest reason that businesses, and when I say businesses, I mean like fully functional, enterprises are successful, or at least more successful than the individual sole proprietor in general, is literally, and they're all in the same realm, 1 to 2 things. And it's obviously systems, but it's systems that include deadlines. My point being is that if you worked as an employee for X company, and they said, I need this paper done, or this report done by Friday. Guess what? You're getting that report done by Friday. If you're left to your own, you're your own boss, and no one's giving you deadlines. Fuck it. Next Friday.
Yeah.
The Friday after that. The Friday after that. And so, I don't mean to be morbid. I'm going to break this down both from a life standpoint and a business work standpoint. But the average human lifespan is 79 years long. let's go easy math right now. Let's say someone is 40, okay? If you're 40 years, this is like the battery bar on your phone, okay? That's gone, right? Half of your battery, half of your lifespan, gone. This is your deadline. Like, that's crazy to think about it. Like, that's your deadline. And then you can break that back or break it out to, again, other things as well. It could be, who here has kids? Who has kids that are under 18? How old?
9, 9, and 13.
9, 9, and 13. So, I don't know if you guys know the statistic or not, but about 90% of the time you are going to spend with your child takes place between 0 and 18 years old. By the time they go off to college, you just don't see them much anymore. Like literally the face-to-face time, right? So we got 9, 9, and 13. Let's be extra morbid and go with 13. Even though I don't have good... Let's go 2/3, let's call it 70%.
Oh.
So with that 13-year-old, 2/3-ish, a little bit more than that, 2/3 of the time that you have with them, the time that you have to impart that legacy, to pass on everything that you want to pass on so that they do become motivated, confident, successful human beings. This is the deadline. Exactly. So the effectiveness of that time is even going to go even lower.
My kids are.
Now, you can do this with your kids, with your life, with your career, but breaking this out, like I seriously encourage you guys to start breaking this out and say, all right, I have to start setting deadlines for myself. And treat yourself, because you are one. You are your own business, to start treating it like that. And just as a company, if you're an employee of that company, would give you a deadline, you need to give yourself a goddamn deadline for everything that you do.
And you're worth it.
And exactly. Like that is how you have to frame this stuff. So that you know, so that you can't on Friday say, screw it, I'll go out and drink with my buddies. No. I got to get this done. And understanding what motivates you and what your legacy is about is what will, again, along with you setting the deadlines, is what will allow you to actually follow through with, all right, I am going to stay home and work on that project, or whatever it is that's going to advance the decisions that affect your legacy. I want to wrap up with a story. So, ironically, she's gone, so I don't even get to answer her question yet. The person handling my real estate transaction is my father. He's a real estate agent.
We all have one.
We all, exactly, right? But long before he got into real estate, he was a cop. He was a police officer. He's retired now. And so and again, he didn't get into real estate until, many, many years after this story. So as a cop, it was one of those things growing up where the income, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, it wasn't great. We definitely weren't living in a poorhouse either. It's your average, middle American family, right? Well, along with other norms, along with the average middle American family, my parents got divorced. around the time I was 11, 12-ish. And so that put a major financial strain on my family. Now, my dad, who's a cop, was also just, you know, I mean, he was your, and I'm sure you guys have memories of your father in much the same way. I mean, he was my superhero. You know what I mean? He was a man's man who I looked up to, a hard worker. I remember growing up that, you know, during Christmas, he would work countless hours of overtime and take off duty jobs so that we could have a nice Christmas. Well, no amount of overtime was going to suffice for the year of the divorce. Like, I'm sure as anybody here knows, like, it can cripple you financially. And my dad was, again, like I was saying, a man's man. I don't think I ever saw my dad cry. Except for one time in my life. And it was that Christmas when I was 11 or 12 years old. And I was old enough, obviously, at that time to know that there was no Santa. I think my sister still believed in him. I know, right? And he sat me down and he said, I don't have any money for Christmas presents this year. And he broke down and he cried. A man who I'd never seen cry before in my entire life, and still have to this day, after that, have never seen him cry, other than that one moment. And I will never be able to stand in his shoes and know exactly what that felt like. And even as an 11, 12-year-old kid, like, I didn't care. Like, I was like, Dad, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't need presents. But I could see, and I remember so vividly to this day, how much it crushed him as a father and as a provider. And so literally that moment has been seared into my brain. And it is literally what drives me every day. I know, hopefully, she doesn't leave me. I know that I may not have absolute control over anything and everything that comes my way. Like, shit happens. That's how life works. But I will be damned, and I'm going to do everything in my power to do everything I can to not be in his shoes, because I saw the pain in his eyes, and I would never want to have to go through what he went through. And so that potential, I don't want to wake up, have that happen, and have that regret of, I could have done something else. I could have done more. And so I will sleep at night knowing that I have done everything in my power to accomplish all of those things and do right by everybody. And if something does happen by that, that I can at least still sleep at night knowing that I did everything I could. And that is literally how I live my life every single day. It was crazy. I just told my dad that story not too long ago. He didn't know for however. But that super painful moment in his life literally is what inspired his son, or continues to inspire his son on a daily basis. So with that, I conclude. I thank you guys for having me, and I hope you guys can take some of this with you.